Alright, so I'm going to be doing a review of Wonder Woman Outlaw. This is the first volume of the Tom King era of Wonder Woman, which is still going on right now as of this recording. Also, this comic was sent to me by my friend Chris. Chris, thank you so much for this comic, because this was something I really wanted to read. I know, like, I defend a lot of Tom King stuff. There are stuff I don't like the tale, like the other, I will not defend the Batman run after War of Jokes and Riddles. Those first four volumes, solid Batman era, solid Batman comics, I think. But after that, it was just went off the rails. Like, I think a lot of people said, like, it went off the rails, after, it really went off the rails after the wedding issue. Which, to his credit, that wasn't Tom King's fault. He recently admitted in an interview over on Comic Pop that, like, it wasn't meant to be, like, a big thing, because he said, I'm not going to get them married, but DC overblew it for marketing. So I don't blame him for that one. Like, I'm not, like, that whole thing. He even told DC, don't make it an event, please, they're just gonna get their hearts broken. But DC was like, but money, though! Remember, this was still under the Dan the Dickhead era, so that tracks. Anyway, and also, Heroes in Crisis, while I think the themes of the comic worked well, again, that was a comic that was damaged by meddling. Having said that, though, it's still not a good book. So I don't, there are things that Tom King has written that I do not like. But, however, there is a good majority of his writing that I absolutely love. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, we'll get to this in a moment, but, like, the War of Jokes and Riddles, like, that whole first few volumes of his Batman, there is a lot I have read from him that I really like. And I think Tom King works, and I think DC's finally realized this, is that Tom King works best when you just give him, like, an X amount of comic. Like, if you give him too long a run, he's gonna run out of steam. So you need to, like, and that's something I'll touch on in this. But, like, you need to give him, like, X amount of book before you're like, okay, we gotta stop, Tom. It's time to stop. So, yeah. So, where does this book fall? Where does this book fall for Tom King? In the really fucking good, that's where it stands. In the really fucking good of comics. Now, again, this really depends on how long is he going to keep this level of quality up, because, again, like I said, after although I will say I think it started to drop off after the War of Jokes and Riddles. A lot of people do point that after the wedding issue, it just kind of dropped off for Batman, for Tom King's Batman. So, the thing is, like, how long can he keep this quality up? That's the thing, is, like, how long can he keep this level of quality up before he has to, like, you know, and can't... I think he can hold out for, like, a good 4 or 5 volumes, and then maybe not, like, I'm going by trade, because I collect trades, so maybe, like, 4 to 5 story arcs, and then maybe bow out, I think. But we'll see. But this is he just comes out swinging with this book. Holy shit, he just comes out swinging with this book. So, let's dive into it. This book, basically, the Tom King era starts with a pretty brutal look at, you know, the world. Basically, it's all told from this new villain that was created for this story called the Sovereign, who is the secret king of America. And we'll get to that in a bit, but, like, he's telling the story of how Wonder Woman defeated him to Trinity, Diana's daughter, who was introduced in Wonder Woman number 800 by Tom King's comic, the Tom King story in Wonder Woman number 800. And basically, it's treated as like, yeah, this is her story that Diana didn't want to tell. And the Sovereign basically said, she's the one who defeated us and defeated America. Like, basically, and it's all like, you know how the story's gonna go, but you don't know all the details, too. Like, we don't know who Trinity's father is, and they kind of leave it open that maybe Diana didn't birth Trinity. Like, maybe she adopted her. And it also didn't say, like, outright that Steve Trevor was her father, you know? So there's a lot of questions still there of this story that's still expanding. Again, I haven't read the later issues. I'm just waiting for trade, so I'll extend on that when we get to those issues. So basically, after a Themysciran, after an Amazonian kills several people in a bar, the government freaks out, and in typical American fashion, it goes overboard and puts out a group called Axe to forcefully remove Amazonians living in America. And some Amazonians go and leave in peace, but others are like, no, we have children here, and then they get fucking killed in front of their daughter. And it's also there's some really the villain here, Sergeant Steele, not that Sergeant Steele, but it is there's some connotation there. This guy named Steele, he basically calls Amazonians listen, girl, this is it's very he's pro, he's very he's very much in his masculinity, and also he doesn't care about it. He wants to he loves putting women in his place. He even basically says that without saying, in a pretty well worded don't worry, we'll take your daughter into a more nuclear family, basically saying I'm gonna kill these lesbians and then put their daughter in a a heterosexual house. And and they're basically forces the daughter to watch the mom get killed. It's really fucked up. But you also realize that shit that could and has happened in America. And it's really, and again, it makes sense because Tom King has a lot to say about politics, because he was ex-CIA, he did work for the CIA and the government on a whole. So I imagine the dude probably has some words. Diana, of course, refuses, and now the enemy that she has to fight, there are classic villains of hers, but the villain she has to fight is the US government, and this villain named the Sovereign. The Sovereign is a pretty interesting villain because he's treated as the secret king of America, who uses this thing called the lasso of lies, and he's also very much he hates Amazonians because the idea of women being in power disgusts him. So using the lasso of lies, he basically manipulates other men into being yes, you lost your masculinity, it was dangerous, go home and kill yourself. And I'm holy shit, I'm glad Diana beat you, but also, sidebar, knowing how fucked up Tom King can be in terms of emotional beatdowns, I'm not expecting this story to be, while it is a kind of happy ending with knowing the Sovereign is going to be, Diana is going to defeat the Sovereign, I have this horrible suspicion that, it's not gonna end well for Diana either. I have this horrible feeling that knowing Tom King's writing at this point, I have this really, 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 really horrible feeling that it's just not gonna end well for her either. Yeah. I also love how he treats Diana, is that while she's a woman, we know Diana, she's a goddess, she's one of the Trinity, but he really puts Tom King really puts some love into this comic. He really puts some love into the Wonder Woman lore. From bringing back villains that not even most people would know. There's one, let's talk about him real fast, Angleman. Do you remember Angleman? I sure as fuck didn't. But Angleman's here, and he's treated as he's a mathematician who uses angles in his gimmick. But basically, in here, it's revealed that the US government is terrified of Angleman because he unlocked the anti-life equation. So, knowing what he did for Kite Man as a character, I can only imagine what he's going to do with Angleman in the future if he hasn't gotten to that story arc already. But yeah, we basically get a lot of her rogues gallery, Giganta, Silver Swan, Cersei, even Grail and Dr. Psycho show up. But again, I have this sneaking suspicion that the story he's gonna do with Angleman is gonna be fucked up. Anyway, so it's also a great story of showcasing that Diana is a strong hero, and at the same time, it's showcasing that she's like, yeah, I know what I'm fighting. I know, and I fought for this country. I've defended it. But at the same time, I know what I'm getting into. And Steve, I'm sorry. And even Steve's like, I gotta follow order. And she's like, I know. I love you. So it's not like they're gonna, again, anything could happen. So I'm expecting emotional damage. The one part that really made me, really choked me up was a scene where the Sovereign forces the president to make a speech and declare war on Wonder Woman. They call it the Wonder War. And essentially what happens is that while this is going on, Diana's not paying attention. Like, you think she's getting ready for war. No, she's visiting a boy who's dying of, I think, cancer. And he really loved Wonder Woman. It actually reminds me a lot of a Spider-Man story back in the, I think, 80s called The Boy Who Collected Spider-Man. And they did adapt it in the 90s cartoon. So it reminded me a lot of that, and I really love that story of just Diana, this is who Diana is. She loves everyone. So it's a great story, because again, there's this moment where she's just, fighting the U.S. Army, and she just uses the lasso to, grab a tank and just starts smashing it in front of them, and is like, you can all leave now. The artwork in here is also phenomenal. The artwork is done by, one second, I need to look this up. Daniel Simperi, and colors by Tomoru Mori. I hope I'm saying those names right. But yeah, the artwork in here is really fucking good. It's really fucking good. I also love how they treat Diana's size. It's tall, and she clearly dwarfs the other men, and that's something I think Tom King did on purpose. But again, Diana's always been tall. But, physicality-wise, she's muscular, but it's not, overbearing like I've seen some people do with Wonder Woman art. So, yeah. I fucking love this book. I really hope it keeps the momentum. And again, I have a feeling after reading the story, I'm like, I know this is going to be a happy ending, but knowing Tom King, that's not going to be the case fully. Anyway, so I highly recommend Wonder Woman Outlaw. If you are interested in reading a Wonder Woman book, here you go. This is the perfect one for you. Anyway, so once again, I'd like to thank my friend Mount Vernon Kid for sending me this comic, and you guys tell me in the comments below. If you've read Wonder Woman Outlaw, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.